this webinar. Principal, Dr. K. The Delver, our President. Over to you, ma'am.
Today's case guest, Dr. Sujit S. Study of Chemistry, Dr. Jolly Teacher, Program Coordinator, Srimati Rishmi Jaya Ravindran, our eccentric executive member, Sri Aditya, ICSC Coordinator, Dr. Soju, Srimati Induja, my colleagues, delegates from various institutions, warm good morning to one and all. Today, PG Department of Chemistry, in association with ICSC, is hosting a DBT staff supported international webinar on rapidly growing research area, that is organic light emitting diodes, fundamentals and application. As all of us know, the science and technology is changing rapidly. All of us
the third generation invented, that is thermally activated delayed fluorescent, and the fourth generation invented in 2014, that is hyperfluorescent OLEDs. In case of fluorescent material or fluorescent OLEDs, that is low cost, high color purity, and low efficiency and sometimes low lifetime also. But in case of phosphorescent OLED, that is high cost. Most of the materials are organometallic complexes, and that is like iridium complexes. So that is showing high cost and low color purity and high efficiency. In the case of thermally activated delayed fluorescence, the cost is low color purity and high efficiency. In case of fourth generation, that is hyperfluorescence. Hyperfluorescence actually that is a mixture of fluorescence and TADF. I will explain later. In case of that, low cost, high color purity, and high efficiency, these two types, TADF and hyperfluorescence, actually, this is a very advanced technology in the OLED. Yeah, the emission mechanism. Actually, when we are using fluorescent material, there will be only singlet excitons are emitting. I already mentioned the whole electron pair is known as singlet exciton, and the excitons will be in the fluorescent material. The excitons will be 25% excitons will be in singlet state, and the 75% of excitons will be in the triplet state. In fluorescent OLEDs, only this singlet excitons will emit the light energy. So there is total of assume there is a total of 100 excitons, only 25 is emitting. So the internal quantum efficiency is only 25%. But in the case of phosphorescent OLEDs, there is a phenomenon called ISSC. ISSC means inter-system crossing. Here, from the S1 state to means singlet state to triplet state, this 25% of excitons are transferring to this triplet state, and that is emitting the light. That is phosphorescence. So there will be 100% of internal quantum efficiency. That means 100% of excitons are utilizing for the light energy production. In case of thermally activated delayed fluorescence, there is a back transfer. Means from the triplet to singlet energy transfer is happening. Means the 75% of the triplet excitons will move to the singlet state. Then that will emit. This is the emission type will be fluorescent only. This is thermally activated delayed fluorescent emission. Here also the internal quantum efficiency is 100% because utilizing the 100% of the excitons forming. This is the most advanced one, that is hyperfluorescence. In case of hyperfluorescence, that is a mixture of fluorescence and TADF material. Here, the TADF material is acting as a sensitizer for improving the performance of fluorescent material. Here, the triplet excitons are transferring to the singlet exciton in the TADF material, and the whole excitons are transferring to the fluorescent material, and the emission efficiency will be higher compared to the fluorescence. Here I am talking about the OLED fabrication method. Mainly two methods are using for the fabrication of organic light emitting diode. That is, first one is solution process and the second one is thermal evaporation process. The solution process mainly includes two types of solution process: spin coating and inkjet printing. Usually, the indium tin oxide coated glass substrate is using for the fabrication of OLED as anode material. Already mentioned, the cathode material will be silver, aluminum, that kind of metals. In the solution process, first we will make some kind of solution using the organic material according to the color which we need. There are many materials available in the market, and many labs are working with, especially from India. Many groups are working in the production of organic light emitting diode material. In the spin coating, the first making the solution, then solution application on the substrate, means just pouring to the substrate using on pipette, then rotating this one, and then the solvent is evaporating using heating, usually not give too much heat, just 70 or 80 degrees Celsius. Then repeat the same, and then forming the multi-layered structure of organic light emitting diode. And in case of inkjet printing, each pixel of organic light emitting diode is making by like printing technology, some kind of printing technology. Each color is printing separately. In case of thermal evaporation process, usually this thermal evaporation process is doing in a high vacuum chamber. In the chamber, there will be many electrodes, maybe starting from 3 to number we can adjust according to the need. So first we will fill this electrode with the material. Then the chamber will be under high vacuum and will give the high heat. Then the material will start evaporating. The substrate will be here. Actually, this is a demonstration of a thermal evaporation chamber. The substrate will be here, and this material will deposit here as thin film. And layer by layer, we can fabricate using this thermal evaporation process also. This is just a comparison between thermal evaporation process and solution process. The thermal evaporation process is another known as like pipe process or vacuum evaporation process. Okay, in this case, using different types of shadow mask to produce the different types of layers and little bit complex technology, the thermal evaporation technology, and the materials also. The material utilization is little bit high compared to solution process. And in case of solution process, we can fabricate large areas like this, and the cost is comparatively low. High material consumption rate means there is no much wastage of material. And but the one negative thing is if we are using the solution process, the device lifetime will be very poor. In most of the industries, using only this thermal evaporation serial for production of organic light emitting diode. For academic research, many research groups are working this with the solution process. Here I am talking about the types of OLEDs. There are mainly 6 types of OLEDs: passive matrix OLED, active matrix OLED, transparent OLED, photometric OLED, foldable OLED, and white OLED. Here, in case of passive matrix OLED, the PM OLEDs have strips of cathode, organic layers, and strips of anode. The anode strips are arranged in perpendicular to the cathode strip. The intersection of the cathode and anode makes the pixels. Means here you can see the anode and cathode here. This is perpendicular each other. The light will produce from this side. Means where it is intersecting, from there the light will produce. This is very easy to make this passive matrix OLED, but more power needed for operating this passive matrix OLED. Yes, passive matrix OLED is usually using for making. This is like stereo display, mobile phone display, and some another kind of display. Actually, this is Rightstar, the company where I am working. They are fabricating this kind of displays from the company. And this is in watch also we are using OLED display. Another kind of is OLED is active matrix OLED. Short form is AMOLED. AMOLEDs have full layers of cathode, organic molecules, and anode, but the anode layer overlays a thin film transistor array that forms a matrix. AMOLEDs consume less power compared to PMOLED, but the fabrication process is comparatively complex compared to the passive matrix OLED, and it's more expensive also. But this kind of technology, this active matrix OLED is usually using to make the laptop or computer screens and the television screens. Like this is the LG OLED TV. They are using the AMOLED technology for making the display. Then another type of interesting OLEDs are transparent OLEDs. I already mentioned usually the cathode will be not transparent, it will be opaque. But in this case, both anode and cathode will be transparent, and the light will emit from the both sides, from the anode side and from the anode side and from the cathode side. So it will be transparent in nature. Here, usually the base will be like the anode will be deposited on glass substrate. The cathode material, there will be some kind of device engineering. Means maybe the cathode layer thickness will be less, or maybe some kind of other materials are using for making the transparency. And using this transparent OLED technology, uh, both PMO LED, Passive OLED and Active OLED can produce. This is actually this figure. This is it will come to market. This is producing by one China company, Xiaomi. This is very interesting to see the transparent OLED TV. Another type of OLED is top emitting OLED. In the earlier one slide, I mentioned most of the OLED is emitting from the bottom side only, because the anode is coating on the glass substrate. But here the anode is some kind of opaque substrate, and the base is some kind of opaque substrate, and anode is coating on that opaque substrate only. Then making the cathode side transparent by changing the layer thickness of cathode material or like that. Then the emission will be from the top of the OLED. So it will emit from the upper side. This foldable OLEDs. In case of foldable OLEDs, the foldability will depend on the material we are using. Some kind of plastic material or other substrate are using for making the foldable OLEDs. It is very interesting, and this kind of products are getting more attention in the OLED market. This is white OLED. White OLED, I think people are familiar with this white OLED. Usually, these kind of OLEDs are using for the some kind of lightning for indoor and outdoor lighting technology. And this is some example for OLED lighting using inside the house. So we are using different types of artificial lighting every day in offices, everywhere. We are going in stadium. We are working in front of computer for long time, and everywhere light is there. Then there is one question: is these lightning sources influence our health or not? Actually, there is a strong influence on this light and the health. There is one OLED lighting technology, that is candlelight style OLED. This invented by Professor Zhou Fei Zhou in Taiwan. He invented one kind of OLED that emitting like candle. This candlelight OLED is available in market, and this candlelight OLED price is like around 200 USD. That is in Indian money, it will be around 12,000 Indian money. The main advantage of this candlelight OLED is there is no blue emission in this light. Usually we are using the LED bulb or CFL lamp for our lightning source. This kind of lightning source, we are thinking that is giving the white light, but that is a combination of RGB, means red, green and blue, and the blue emission will be there. This kind of blue emission in the night time, if we are exposed to blue light in the night time, it may affect our sleep quality and health also. So for avoiding that kind of thing, using the OLED technology, Professor Zhou's group invented candlelight OLED, and here there is very negligible blue emission here, and this is very human-friendly lightning source that is free from mercury, flickering, glare, and UV. This is another type of OLED product. This is actually not in the market, just invention only in the academic. Sunlight style OLED. Everyone knows the color and color temperature of organic light emitting diodes are varying from time to time and place. With time and place, that is varying. Here, in this kind of OLED, the color and color temperature is varying with changing the voltage. You can see at 3 volts, the color is like orange. That is almost similar to the morning or evening sunlight color, and when increasing the voltage, the color and color temperature is increasing more. So this kind of human-friendly lighting resources also one advantage of OLED technology. Then I need to talk about the challenges also. OLED technology is not a 100% perfect technology. The main challenge with organic light emitting diode technology is the lifetime of organic light emitting diode. The lifetime is sometimes very low compared to other technologies like LED, especially some kind of color like blue color is showing very low lifetime. The lifetime is depends on the many factors. The one factor is like moisture attack. We are using many kind of organic molecules and organometallic complexes for producing the organic light emitting diodes. There, the that kind of materials. I think most of the people are chemistry people. You know, the organic complexes or compounds are little bit sensitive to moisture. So there may be some kind of reaction both in the cathode and anode. This water molecule will split into hydrogen and oxygen in the device. Here, presence of pinholes can increase the moisture attack and degradation. Here, I introduced one new term, pinhole. Pinhole means here the aluminium is when aluminium is using as a cathode material, we are depositing as a thin layer using thermal evaporation technique. And here, there may be a chance of forming some kind of very small porosity. This is called pinhole. From that pinhole, it is very easy to the water or moisture or oxygen can enter very easily. So it will react with the organic molecules and it will degrade the organic molecules. And then it will lead to decrease in electroluminance intensity and the change in electronic structure of organic layers and the corrosion of cathode material. Then other factors like oxidation. Oxidation may lead to evolution of heat or gases and which may lead to the detachment of cathode layer from the device. Defects and less adhesion between the layers may increase the oxidation and corrosion. When the organic light emitting diode in the presence of acid or base, it may lead to some kind of corrosion, some kind of degradation that is called corrosion. And another thing is thermomechanical failures. I already explained there are many layers in the organic light emitting diode, different organic layers. There should be a matching of coefficient of this materials. If there is a difference in thermal expansion coefficient, that may generate intrinsic pulse, which may lead to delamination. Bending and folding may increase the chance of delamination and this causes degradation in flexible OLED. This is another kind of degradation happening in organic light emitting diode, that is molecular migration and the atomic migration. Here, this is the anode and this is the cathode. Here, there will be organic materials, layer by layer, there will be the organic molecules. These organic molecules will move to here. At the initial stage, there won't be any problem, but after giving the electricity and by the time being, the organic molecules will move to the anode side. This will cause some kind of degradation, and another kind of degradation is like uh, this metal, indium tin oxide is the anode. This there will be indium and tin ions, and this indium and tin ions will move to the cathode side. This will increase the when there is a presence of this kind of metal ions inside the organic layer. There will be a chance of increasing in the operating voltage of this OLED, and this kind of increase in operating voltage will reduce the efficiency and it will reduce the lifetime also. Another kind of degradation mechanism for organic light emitting diodes is photochemical degradation that mainly happening at ITO organic interface via three steps. First is the organic molecules are absorbing the light, then the movement of excitons to the ITO region. In my second or third slide, I mentioned the exciton formation should happen inside the emissive layer. If that is changing to the anode or cathode side, it may reduce the efficiency and lifetime also. So, third point is formation and release of oxygen from the ITO cell. If some kind of UV irradiation happening, that will enhance the device degradation by the formation of singlet excitons. And another thing is UV irradiation may lead to chemical reaction of organic materials. Another degradation mechanism like thermal breakdown or degradation. All the organic materials have a TG. TG means glass transition temperature. If below TG, the materials will function very well, but above the glass transition temperature, if we are heating the organic light emitting diode or material, it will cause some kind of damage inside. So, usually when we are using the material should have a higher glass transition temperature. And another thing is Joule heating happening. The holes and electrons are passing through continuously in the organic light emitting diode. So there will be some kind of heat energy will happen. This is called Joule heat. Actually, this depends on the HOMO and LUMO of the material. If there is a huge difference between the HOMO and LUMO of the adjacent layers, there will be more chance for forming the Joule heating. And another degradation phenomena is presence of impurities, and impurities can increase. Maybe impurities may be related with materials, organic materials, or maybe with the external environment or vacuum chamber, and this may lead to the degradation of organic light emitting diodes. And this is the how we can prevent this kind of degradation phenomena. Actually, the most serious thing is the presence of oxygen and moisture that is attacking the organic light emitting diodes more, and this we can prevent by using encapsulation technology. Encapsulation means simply we are just covering with another glass that is not that is telling like cover glass only. Using the cover glass, we are protecting the organic light emitting diode from the moisture, and inside the cover glass there will be some kind of moisture absorbing and oxygen absorbing material will be there. That is desiccant. That is usually in lab we are calling that material as getter, Getter, getter material. So encapsulation technology can prevent the degradation of this kind of organic lighting diodes up to some level. Then conclusions. OLED is one of the potential technologies using both in display and lighting. Can produce both small and large devices, capable to fabricate flexible and transparent devices, and the OLEDs are sensitive to moisture and air, which may limiting the application of the organic light emitting diodes. Before finishing my presentation, I would like to introduce Taiwan to everyone. Yes, the Taiwan is located near to China. Taiwan is a very small island. Taiwan is a very small, very peaceful, very beautiful island. The land area is 36,193 kilometers square, and the population is 23.52 million. Compared to our Kerala, the land area and population is less. Actually, here in Taiwan, there are many universities. If someone is really interested to do their master's or PhD, you can directly apply to universities, or otherwise you can directly contact to professors in the university. Usually they will reply to email, and if they are interested with your profile, they will accept here. Around 10 to 11 universities are within the 500 US world ranking also. So if you have any more questions, you can contact me in personally, and I will help you to apply also. Thank you. Thank you for your kind listening, and thanks to Joel teacher for inviting me for this talk. Please feel free to ask questions.
Thank you, sir. The session is open for discussion. Kindly post your doubts in the chat box.
John Peter, the question is foldable OLED are in the market? Yes, now foldable OLEDs are in the market. Uh, Reshma, question. Can you say about any structural features of inorganic complexes that can be used for OLED purpose? Uh, Usually, the organometallic complexes are using for the phosphorescent organic light emitting diodes. Most of that are like iridium complexes are widely using. Uh, that only. Usually, the carbazole materials are using for the host application. I already mentioned the MC there. There will be host and dopant material. Usually, the host material will be some kind of carbazole material. This is about the chemistry part. Thank you. Could you please explain how a ligand is selected for the most effective emission? Actually, that depends on the like uh, the moieties which are inside the material. And one thing I need to clear now, I am mainly dealing with the this kind of device engineering part. I am not going any in depth to the this kind of chemistry part. Not doing any chemistry synthesis also. I just make device engineering. So materials usually receiving from some another universities or some other companies also. So in chemistry part, it may be little bit difficult for me to explain more. But from my knowledge, like many carbon materials and many organometallic complexes are using for this application. So, thank you. John Peter, another question is the manufacturing cost of OLED versus LCD. Of course, the manufacturing cost is higher for OLED compared to LCD. But in case of LCD, the color purity is not that much good, and there is no wide viewing angle. We can view from only from some angle only. But in case of organic light emitting diodes, even though the fabrication cost is little bit higher, but it is giving wide viewing angle and like good color purity. Thank you.
Any other questions?
John Peter, is there any medical world application of OLED? Yes, in medical field also OLED is using. Actually, recently I saw some papers like in like, some kind of patches are using in hand or like that for checking the oxygen level in our body, and that kind of usage is there. And in many medical equipment, the OLED display is used. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
Vimaksan Varghese, the question is, can you show applications of OLED in dairy field? Actually, I'm not sure about that thing. Maybe in some equipment for some display, they are using OLED. I don't have much idea about that. Thank you, Vimaksan.
Please note that the link for feedback form is shared in the chat box. Kindly everybody please start filling the feedback form. Do we have any more questions here?
Jackson, how to apply PhD in Taiwan? In Taiwan, usually there is two intakes, like in the spring semester and fall semester. The spring semester is starting in February and the fall semester in September. Usually, the notification will come 3 or 4 months before that. Keep on check the university website. You can apply. And before applying, if you are contacting some professors in Taiwan and they are accepting you to their group, it may be very easy to get the admission and the scholarship. If you have any doubt or if you need any help, you can contact me Facebook also. Actually, in Facebook, you can just search me by my full name, Sujit Sudhindran Swayamprakash. You can contact me. I will help. Thank you. One more thing I need to add. Actually, around 6,000 Indian students are doing PhD in Taiwan. PhD and masters. More than 6,000 people are doing. Thank you. Thank you, Information SM College, for the nice comment. Jackson, and how to get job in Taiwan. Getting job after masters, many people are getting job in Taiwan, but after PhD, little bit difficult to get job. But some people are getting, fortunately, like I got the job. And the main thing, if you are learning the Chinese, you will easily get the job in Taiwan. If I after just after undergraduate also, it is very easy to get the job in Taiwan if you know Chinese very well. Just speaking and listening is okay. No need to write. Thank you. Thank you, Sharavan Kumar Singh, for the comment. Lakshmi, we take more power. Lakshmi, I think you mean the OLED power. Actually, OLED is not taking that much power. OLED is energy efficient. Thank you. Uh, Information as a college. Is there any entrance exam for joining research in Taiwan? Actually, there is no entrance exam. They will consider in which field someone is doing their master's project. They will consider for PhD. If after master's, if doing some kind of research as a project fellow or getting some publications, that may be easy to get admission in Taiwan. There is no entrance examination. Only the expertise is the matter. Thank you.
So if there are no other questions, shall we wind up the session?
Yes, Nishmi, if there is no questions, we can wind up the session. Sujit, thank you so much
Thank you, teacher.
for all my students. You are an inspiration for my current students.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, we can conclude the session.
Moving on to my duty. Now, I would like to thank each one of you. First of all, I would like to thank our head of the department, Dr. A. Joel teacher. She has been a constant inspiration for all academic and extracurricular activities. She has been a real inspiration behind this program, and I would like to thank you, ma'am, for all your support. Next, I would like to thank our beloved principal, Dr. K.C. Preeta teacher. She has been a motivation for all the academic programs, webinars being conducted by different departments of our college. There have been many webinars already conducted and being scheduled. And thank you, teacher, for all your motivation and support. Thank you, teacher. Next, I would like to thank our resource person. It was a very informative talk, and most of all, he's an alumnus of our college, and just like our head of the department has just now mentioned, he's a real inspiration for all our students who have just completed their PG, or those who have already earlier completed, and those who are currently doing their degree and PG courses. And they might look up to you. They know that they can also try and be successful. Thank you so much, sir, for your time, for the time you have taken for the presentation to prepare and deliver such a beautiful speech. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank Ajay Sanam, sir, in his absence, and our IQAC coordinator who has given us all the support for the conduct of the program. And I would like to, above all, I would like to thank all the members of my department, all the faculty members. They are a real support, without whom it would have not been possible to conduct such a webinar. And thank you all my dear faculty members, and Indujit Isha for her introduction, and all the participants of the webinar. I would like to thank each one of you. And if I have left anyone out, please, I'm sorry for it. I would like to thank every one of you. And last, I would like to mention that kindly fill in the feedback form so that I can get your participation certificates. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank